Howdy. Welcome to another day. Another day, another song. We're going to go over some Eddie Cochran stuff today. So I figured I'd bring the orange guitar out for it. And maybe go over a couple of other riffs and things like that. So one of the things about Eddie Cochran that, at least for me, Eddie Cochran, of course, is one of the legends of the great rockabilly in the rockabilly genre, one of the greats. And I love, his songs and everything, and I've always enjoyed listening to it and playing the songs as well. From a guitar perspective, though, since there really isn't a lot of lead going on. Now, it's not that Eddie was a slouch or anything. He could definitely play leads. There's just not a lot of them in a lot of the songs. Now, part of that had to do with, at the time, guitar solos in general, but guitar solos specifically were not prominent in music. It wasn't a common thing. You heard it occasionally. You'd hear Hound Dog, you hear Scotty Moore and stuff like that. But a lot of pop stuff would have been, and this would have been in the late 50s when rock and roll had been around for a little bit. A lot of labels and a lot of producers, they didn't want all the solo stuff, the extra flair. So they would just wanted to have the core of the song, right? And so you can hear 20 Flight Rock, you hear solos and stuff like that. But a lot of them, there just isn't. It's just rhythm. So we'll go over, I've already done a video on 20 Flight Rock, so we won't need to go over anything like that. But one of the two songs that get played quite often, that I really liked anyway, I always enjoyed playing them, was Come On Everybody and Something Else. Now, a lot of that, especially, we'll start with Something Else, so just to do one thing at a time here. It's heavy, it's really driven by the acoustic guitar and the bass, which sounds like an electric bass with a pick doing something like an octave lower, obviously, right? And then it just goes into this rhythm like this. And then you hear the bass go. Does it again. You can kind of emulate that on the guitar, right? If you're playing in a trio or something. And so a lot of these songs they're fairly produced. So there's a lot of not overdubs, but there's a lot of different. They didn't really do overdubs back then. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's acoustic, there's bass, there's drums, there's sometimes two guitars and that sort of thing. And this song is heavily driven by the bass and the acoustic. But what you can do, and I'll show you what I would normally do to emulate this live, is if you're you use the Bigsby, and you can kind of get that what the bass is doing. Similar to Summertime Blues, right? And then it goes into a verse. And I mean, if you can play that and sing, if you sing and play, if you can play that and sing the verse at the same time doing that Bigsby rhythm, more power to you. But what I usually do is that while I'm singing, I'll just kind of palm mute and play the E. And then I'll, in between the lyrics, I'll go. Then it goes up to a 4, 5. You can play it like that, or again, it's all heavily driven by acoustic. Who cares? Come on, everybody. Right, and that's, I mean, that's the whole song, really. And it just goes verse, verse, verse. There's no real solo. So if you were to throw a solo in there, you could just solo over the verse structure. So you got that long E, and you go back and forth between the A and the B and the A and the B, and I never really had anything worked out for that. I just kind of made it up as I went along. If I haven't played that song live in years, but the main reason is because at least in the TeleDynes, we don't really play a lot of, that's kind of an A-side rockabilly stuff, so we kind of avoid the A-sides live. If somebody requests it, well, I'll do it. But and that's another thing too, is if somebody comes up and requests an A-side like a Johnny Cash or an Eddie Cochran or a Gene Vincent or something like, then I'll save that stuff for a request, so I don't just do it all and then all of a sudden people come in a little later for the show and say, oh, hey, can you play Chuck Berry or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, we already did it, you know. So we stick with more of the B-side and originals and that sort of thing, although we have some A-sides as well. But and I've been playing a lot of, when I first started, of course, everybody starts with a lot of the Eddie Cochran stuff. They start with 20 Flight Rock, which was one of my first, and Summertime Blues, and then you play Come On Everybody, and without a solo, I think the song is 2 minutes and change or something, so it goes by real fast. Let me see how long it actually is. It is play. 1 minute and 58 seconds. It's pretty short. So a lot of that stuff was pretty short back then. I don't know why exactly. I'm guessing, the shorter song, they could get more songs on the air, on the radio back then. I'm sure there was a concern with 45s, how long a song could be, but 45s could hold, you know, you could get pretty lengthy tunes on there. I mean, but anyway, so that's Come On Everybody, right? That's a way to kind of approximate what the bass is doing if you don't have, especially if it's an upright too. It definitely sounds like an electric playing with a pick. You can hear that pop. You know, I don't have the bass, but kind of approximate it there. Then we have Something Else. Again, no guitar solo, but it has a fun little riff, a little walk up. Again, heavily driven by the electric bass and an electric guitar playing the same riff, like doubling the riff. I mean, that's it. That's the structure right there. So with that, I don't really use any kind of a Bigsby. It's in the key of D. And it's just a scale walk up from the 5 to the 1. right? And then when you go into the rhythm, you can play it. And in between the verses, it's walking back up. And you can play the rock and roll thing. Ford, not a 59, you know. So yeah, it's hard to without singing. I'm just trying to play the structures of these things for you. That's if you know listen to the tune. Those are the chords. The only thing that's slightly different or a little unusual is that it doesn't go 1-4-5. It goes 1-5-4. So it'll go from the 1. Cars out front, it's all mine. It's the 41 Ford, not a 59. Back to the 5. Got that girl, and I'm thinking to myself, sure fine looking, man. She's something else. And you can, I don't know if it doesn't really sound like there's a, like you're playing a power chord there. It just sounds like it's driving the root note home. And with a bass really, really heavy, and the drums too. Yeah, bop, 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 bop. Pretty heavy for the time, actually. Kind of reminds me of a little Richard, I Hear You Knockin', if you're familiar with that tune. Coffee. Which, if you haven't heard that, I definitely recommend checking that out. So yeah, that's the core of those two, you know, Eddie songs. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones I know of. I mean, that I know off the top of my head besides 20 Flight, Summertime Blues. I had learned Genie Genie like a long time ago, and I can't for the life of me remember the chords and stuff. Cut Across Shorty and stuff like that. It's good, you know. Check it out if you're unfamiliar with some of the other B-side stuff, because it's pretty cool. But again, it's tough to find you know, songs that have a lot of guitar solo type stuff to kind of dig into it. But for the overall feel and the energy that Eddie Cochran brought to the genre is great. And then for me, as far as more lead stuff, Cliff Gallup is the guy that is my go-to player for the time. And then I'm blanking on the guys' names, but the guitar player for Johnny Burnett, and then and Bill Haley in the Comets and stuff. His session work has some cool soloing stuff. Yeah, it's probably just the pop stuff, the not pop, like the radio edits that they made. I'll have to dig into some more of that stuff and maybe just do some videos on solo breakdowns for that instead of going into the whole song. But yeah, the two between Eddie Cochran and Cliff Gallup, I mean, those two guys, I mean, for the 50s, to me, that's just kind of the cream of the crop there, and great guitar playing to study and emulate. Cool. So, I actually do have a gig today, so I'm gonna possibly cut this even shorter than normal, but we'll go over a couple other things, some other types of guitar riffs and things like that. Um, as far as a lot of people play, like I'll do the same thing. I'll find myself in a rut, and I'll end up playing like pentatonic all the time. And depending on the key that you're playing in, but um, even in a key you may not think about it, there's a lot of times you can play open strings and play open pentatonic. So just because you're in E, you don't have to stick to this up here and all that. You can play all these open strings and stuff like that. And you can do pull-offs. Even if you're it doesn't have to be down here. You can pull off up here. Right? The notes are kind of relatively in the chords. You get the minor thirds, right? Like something like that. It's kind of cool. And that can do that over an E chord. Because you're pulling off to a minor third. You've got your third, your 9, your flat 7, 9 up there, right? I think I've showed this before too, is that you can, here's a riff that you can play in any key, and it works great over country stuff. And I'll show it, easiest one is, you put it's based off of this bar chord. The way to visualize it and look at it is this bar chord here. Doesn't matter where you play, but I'm playing an E. And take your little finger and you put it on the 4th string and you put it on 4 frets up. So you're putting it on the flat 7th of whatever chord it is you're playing off of. Right? And you keep your index finger over that E, 4th string, 3rd string, and the 2nd string. Right? You put your little finger over there. So it's on the D, E, G sharp. And what you do is you pick the D, and then with your middle finger and ring finger on your right hand, pick the strings. And then pull off with your index finger, but keep your little finger on the D. And then when you get it up to speed, you can play it wherever. So if you're playing an E chord, right? So whatever, right? But bring it on the bridge pickup. Get a little nasty with it. So that's a little trick you can do. Somebody had asked. This is for I don't know if they're watching, but a Patreon member asked earlier. I'll respond after the stream here. Just some tips about how to build up speed with your flat picking. And the best advice I can give besides practice is there are two main types of picking, and that's economy picking and alternate picking. So alternate picking is where you go down, up, down, up, down, up. Economy picking is where, depending on whether you're changing strings or not, so if you're playing this riff, like something easy, like, right, or just playing a major scale. But I went from the 5th string to the 4th string. So instead of going down, up, I would go down, down. And then that last one, I'm going down again before I go to the 3rd string. I continue to go down. So if you're going up strings in pitch, but you're going, down towards the floor, you're going down to the next string or up to the next string, however you want to think of it. You always want to go in the direction of the string that you're going towards, and the same when you're going back the other way. always going in the direction of the string. And you build that up. That will give you a much faster speed picking wise than if you're playing alternate picking. The other thing is that if you learn a riff, whatever it is, pick a solo, learn it note for note, whatever, even if it's just a phrase, just a section of it, just like that, just something like that, whatever, and figure out whatever picking pattern is going to work. Play it slow. And then once you get used to whatever picking pattern it is, whether you're using alternate picking or whether you're using economy picking, stick to it. Just stick to that. Don't try to change your picking style. So if you want to add economy picking will be faster ultimately, but if you're not used to it, because I wasn't for a while, and it took me a while to kind of just like woodshed and get used to playing with the economy style. And I'll go back and forth depending on the riff that I'm playing. But whichever way you've learned it, at least when you're playing live, just stick to that, and then just keep building up the speed and just practice it, and you'll get it there. Another thing that can help too is also pick thickness. The thicker the pick, the easier it is to control the pick and go and play a little bit faster. I just use standard Fender mediums, whatever that gauge is. I think it's 60 or 66 millimeter if you put calipers on it. But you can go up a little bit higher. I thought 70, 80 sometimes works. The thick jazz picks never really worked for me. Part of that is also the fact that usually on jazz guitars, the strings are also quite a bit thicker. So they're usually going to have 12s or 13s or something on them, as opposed to 10 and flat wound sometimes. But even if they have round wounds, it's going to be a much thicker string, and jazz players don't really do a lot of bending and that sort of thing. It's mostly just individual notes. So that's my advice for slowly building up building up the speed. The really fast chicken picking type stuff is a combination of alternate picking, some economy picking, and the chicken picking part, which is pulling off with doing pull-offs and hammer-ons, but also picking with your middle finger on your picking hand. And then this scale too. And that's something to so that's G, F sharp, pick, open E. So it's 2 fretted notes, 1 open. So if you think of it in blocks of 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So you're G, F sharp. This is a G scale. It's just a G major scale. G, F sharp, open E, D, C, open B, A, open G. That's it. And just practice that. You don't have to practice it super fast. Just annoy everybody around you and just practice it around in a circle all the time. And yeah, that will definitely build up the speed. Playing little triplet riffs like those are the way I like to do it. I kind of slide up from the 9 or the second, and it's a hammer-on. And it's an upstroke. I start with an upstroke instead of a downstroke. So the last note that I'm hitting is a downstroke on the top string. And there's a riff that you can practice to slowly build up the speed. Because I think that riff is fairly easy to get really fast. And then, of course, just practicing walking bass lines. Whether it's straight or swinging. Even if you're playing straight, going back and forth, down, up, down, up. And going back and forth between swing and straight, all that stuff will help the rhythm of your picking hand. Because a lot of the times, it's the picking hand, not so much the fretting hand that, at least that I've discovered, that ends up being kind of the bottleneck or the crutch there. And play open. And don't forget to play, you know, all the bass strings too, especially the low E, because if you get used to walking bass lines up here on the D string and everything else, and you go to play like an open E, it is a slightly different feel on the pick. To play the open, the bigger strings. Drop the pick, trying to point. Always keep a bunch of picks right in front of your guitar thing. I actually don't. I put them in on my amp and stuff. I just, if I occasionally, just like there, I drop a pick. I've seen everybody do it, so I don't feel too bad. I usually just put them on the back of my amplifier and just grab them off there. I've seen people with like the little things on the mic stands and stuff where you go and grab a pick off of there. I don't like the way it looks personally. So that's like the same thing with the drink stand on the microphone. I don't like that either. So, or the iPad, you know, it's like, I'd rather see a music stand than the iPad stand. I don't know. Something about it just looks hokey. But I mean, that's just for me. I mean, other people seem fine with it, and that's fine. All right. Well, oh, good. My pick went on the floor and not inside the F hole. That's no fun. If that does happen to you, it's fairly easy. Just kind of, you know, I'm sure everybody can get a straw or a pencil, stick the eraser side in, hold the pick down, turn the guitar upside down, and then just slowly let it fall right out of the. Or you can get like little, like calipers, or not calipers, but something to grab it with, like tongs or tiny little tongs or something you can use as well. Just be careful because you can easily scrape the wood down there. So, all right. Well, we got about a half hour, roughly. So until tomorrow, I'll probably stick with this 2 o'clock thing. It works. It's been working pretty well this week, and Saturday will be the typical time. So after this week, though, that's it for the live streams until the next Saturday. So I'll try to get back to once a week on Saturday, roughly around 2 o'clock, just like this. Just won't be every day. So tomorrow will be the last consecutive live stream. And then after tomorrow, then we'll be back the following Saturday. So until then, have a good one, and we'll see you next time. Take care.